right.
Uh,
Let's go
there
back
we
to
go.
brain dump. All right. So this is Maddie's example of a brain dump. And it's typed out. So this is, a way that you could do a brain dump. And basically, you can see a whole bunch of different things here. Doctor appointment for my knee. I need to buy eggs. Feeling really tired this morning. Did I sleep okay? All right. The living room rug is tripping me up. I need to fix that. Emails. So many emails, right? Renewing car insurance, and she put important right next to it. Call mom back. What am I making for dinner? My head hurts a little. Need to find that blue folder with the medical records. Forgot to water the plants again. Okay, so you can see here that these are not just tasks and like a to-do list yet, right? These are just all of her thoughts out on paper, essentially. And so that's what a brain dump is. And how long did it take you to do this, Maddie?
About three
3 minutes.
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And really, when we think about a brain dump, we don't want to do it a long time, right?
No.
We don't want to, this is to help our energy. This is not to add more pressure, right? So we want to spend 2 or 3 minutes, if or a small amount, whatever that means to you. Okay. We don't want you, overthinking it. We just need to get down whatever comes to your head, right? And that's what she did. She's asking about maybe something's going on with her knee. She needs to buy some eggs, right? That's grocery store. She's having some wondering thoughts like, I wonder, did I sleep okay? What am I going to make for dinner? You know? And then just comments. This thing's happening. I need to deal with it, right? The living room rug is tripping me up. I need to fix that. Okay. So it can be pretty much anything that is going on in your head. All right.
And the
Next
one thing
slide.
I do want to add to this is that this one is typed out so that I could easily cut and paste it into the presentation.
Mhm.
And welcome to my brain, because this is what goes to my brain. But handwriting things, if you have that capacity, and if you can handwrite, sometimes is really helpful because it forces the two parts of your brain, your left and right side of your brain, to work together. And it forces your executive function to get involved because there's a lot of pieces to writing, not just typing, but writing down. So anytime if you can, and you do have that capacity, I think it's really important to handwrite things. The other thing, though, is that you can, if that's not something you have the capacity to do, that is okay. Just, type it on your phone or type it on your computer or even use a voice to type. All of that is okay. The point is to just get it out of your brain and on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Mm,
so yeah, I think what we'll do, Jamie, is let's go ahead and go through this and then use the exercise to show all of it.
yeah.
That's okay. Okay.
Did you want to talk about that one?
Sure.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So the other thing is when you look at this list, and this is actually when you do a brain dump, this is a very short list sometimes. It gets really overwhelming looking at all of these things. I'm not going to get all of these things done today, probably. And so what we need to start doing is prioritizing, which seems very overwhelming. And it can feel like you just can't figure out which ones to do. And so the prioritizing is really important. And one of the things that we talk about is to find like a focus of three things. Now, that doesn't mean you're only doing three things a day, and we'll show that when we kind of go into the examples that we're going to walk through with you guys. But you 2 to 3 things is about all you can handle. So a neurotypical brain, like mine and Jamie's, depending on the day,
Right.
can juggle 7 items in their brain at any given time. So plus or minus a couple, depending on again what day it is and where my own ADHD is that day. But a brain in recovery can only just its capacity is 3 things. It's 3 things per, to kind of have that prioritization of these are the 3 things I need to focus on today. Does that mean everything else gets lost? Absolutely not. It means it stays in a list and we'll walk through that, but you need to focus on just 3 things a day. And so that may be, I wanted on my list was to make dinner. I needed eggs. If the eggs are for dinner, then that's probably something I need to get done, or I'm going to have to figure out something else to do for dinner. So that's how we look at the three, the prioritizing.
So I think, right, and so you kind of wrote this here, Maddie, but the
Hmm.
idea again is not that you're taking three things off your list and then ignoring everything else,
Right.
right? It's just a way to try and prevent sort of that shutdown mode that we can get sometimes when our brain starts to feel overwhelmed and fatigued. Okay. So the idea here is kind of saying, like, if I only got three things done today, what are the top three things that I would need to get done? Right. And again, that's not to ignore the rest of the stuff, but it's just so that you can take a little bit of a bite size, right? And
Hmm.
hopefully avoid that kind of shutting down or feeling really, really overwhelmed, right? So, okay, what was you got one? I think the next slide, Maddie, is yeah, decision fatigue. Okay, so you've got a lot of things swirling around in there and decisions that you have to make during the day and prioritizing that you have to do. And we do this sometimes and we don't really label it. We're not saying, oh, I'm prioritizing and
Hmm.
that's why I'm tired, right? But that's kind of what we're doing. We're problem solving and we're prioritizing things and we're deciding, I got to do this instead of this. And all those executive functions are having to work together in some way, shape, or form in order for you to do this task. But the fuel tank might be smaller because our brains are injured or we're really, really, really tired. Whatever's going on, right? Life's happening, and some days are not as easy as others because we don't have as much energy. You've looked at that 20 item list and you already feel tired, right? So what happens? I hear a lot of times from our clients, like, I just can't even get started. It's so overwhelming. I look at it and I'm like, I don't even know what to do first, right? And so the idea is that focusing at the beginning on two to three things will help preserve your fuel to actually do the thing, right? So you're not spending all of your energy just in the planning part. Um, Maddie, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think I'm curious if anybody is interested in sharing like what this feels like to you when you get into this overwhelm and this decision fatigue, like how, if you're comfortable describing what that feels like.
Yeah.
If you'd like to unmute and participate, please unmute and keep it brief.
Yes.
I think I feel like I just sort of shut down. Like I'm
Hmm.
just not capable of
Yeah.
doing anything. I can't
Yeah.
even form words sometimes and
Hmm.
and the people around me don't seem to understand and I don't know how to vocalize and properly explain it. But
Hmm.
yeah, this is something I really struggle with. So I'm really
Hmm.
happy to see you addressing it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
I
for being here, Lena.
I hear, just I hit a wall. Like that's kind of
Hmm.
my term. I've hit a wall and I can't get past the wall, right?
Hmm.
And there's lots of ways to describe it and everybody's a little different, obviously, but thanks for sharing that because yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have
Yeah.
Shauna would like to speak. I
Yeah,
see you're
Shauna.
unmuted.
I wanted to start real quick and say thank you so much. Like I did not know that this was part of having a brain injury.
It is.
And I have judged myself so harshly because
Hmm.
of the overwhelm and the fatigue and the hard time to get started or be
Yeah.
consistent. And so I just want to, sorry, I
That's
just
Don't
want
be
to,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
that's
Don't be
what it
sorry.
feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think and one, I'm glad that you're here because this is part of the brain injury that actually it's a big part of the brain injury. It's probably the number one symptom of the brain injury along with other things. But people don't always understand because again, this is an invisible injury, right? So they're like, why can't you just get your stuff together? Why can't you get your life together? And it's not the functions that your brain used to do all these pieces aren't working the same. So part of our job is to help you figure out how to work differently. So
Hmm.
thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lynn,
Yeah.
did you want to share briefly, please?
Yeah, I second all of that, and I think that that is the ongoing thing, and it's very hard when everybody's like, "Well, just do one box at a time. Just
Yeah.
do that. Just do
Hmm.
that."
Yes.
And you're like, "I can't do anything," and
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's been this way for years. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And I think too, just so you guys know, I mean, for those of you that may be interested in going back to work, if you haven't accessed vocational rehabilitation, we sit down with our clients and that's the royal we, Jamie.
I do.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing.
No, you do.
Yeah.
You do. Jamie does, and goes through step by step, not only to these tips that we're going through, but also finding the right system for you. Yeah, Dawn shared that it's another term is overwrought, and as the counselor in the room, I really appreciate that statement because it shows the depth of the feeling of this.
Mhm.
And I just I appreciate you guys sharing because I want to normalize this for you, because it does exactly like Shana was saying, it feels like something you just should be able to, I don't like that word, that you should be able to do, but that's what the expectation is. And we just have to find you a new system.
Yeah. I'm seeing, a lot of things coming up in the chat. I could just see the little blurb coming up. And people are saying in agreement, yeah,
Yep.
that all of these things kind of ring true in some way, shape, or form. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing those. Yeah, and it is. And it doesn't make it perfect once you do strategies, but it is a way to be able to try and tackle that, and feel maybe a little bit, have a little more control over some of it. So yeah, absolutely. And I just thinking, Maddie, even clients we've worked with for some time that are really doing really great, and they're going back to work, still have this, right? And Maddie and I have this, and we all, at some level, we all have ups and downs in our days. And so the strategies can be helpful for that. So.
Lynn raised her hand, and then we'll move on so that we can make sure that
Sorry,
we
I
can
can't always see them.
That's okay.
Just really fast. I think that's what it wears on you cumulatively over
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so then it's an ongoing cumulative and very difficult. That's the hardest. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Lynn, because you're right. And one of the things that we talk about, like with these kinds of fatigue issues, is it's not, you guys don't have one, like I may have a tough day and then I go sleep and then I have another day and maybe that day starts differently. And the cumulative is really important because if you can't figure out, and what we talk about with our clients is finding those small spaces that you can increase your cognitive energy. We're all about energy conservation, and some of these techniques I think will help you with just conserving that energy a little bit, so you have a little bit more for other things. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so this kind of speaks to that, right? So Maddie, you can talk about this a little bit more too, but we're basically again reiterating, that picking like two or three big things, right? But this is the 1, 2, 3 method. This is the one big thing. You would like essentially tackle one big thing, which is like high energy task that uses a lot of energy, or it's a really high value task that you're going to need your freshest brain power for, right? The best part of the day, or whatever that means. Some of us are better in the afternoon, some of us are better in the morning, etc. Then you're going to pick maybe two medium things, right? These are usually routine tasks, things like making phone calls, doing chores, things that are important that you need to do, but they're somewhat familiar, right? And maybe they don't require as much cognitive energy to do them because you've done them before. And then three tiny wins. These would be like, low energy stuff, things that help you build momentum in your day, but they don't really take a lot of energy, right? Because they're very, very familiar. They're very, very routine. That procedural memory is really strong for these things. And so that's another way that you can kind of prioritize your day or your list, whatever you're going to call it, in order to try and, build momentum with it so that you're tackling more things, but you're basically just spreading your energy out a little bit, if that makes any sense. I don't know, Maddie, do you have a better way of
No, I don't think
maybe
it's a better way of
describing
describing it. I think the important piece to this though is that one of the things that weighs on your cognitive energy a lot is mood and how you're perceiving things. And so one of the things we really work on at Cerebrations is helping you perceive things in a positive way that may not feel like they're positive. And let me give you an example. Those 3 tiny wins become really important with your emotional capacity for the day as well. So if I get up during the day and I do 5 big things and I get 1 done, what does that do to my mood? It makes me feel like I failed today. It makes me feel like can't do things the way I used to. You get focused on the negative. If you have 3 tiny wins that you actually think about them as that, and I always, we can do tricks like put win by it and then circle it to give your brain this serotonin boost. So it goes, oh, that's right. I did do something today. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but the important piece to remember with all this is your brain looks for patterns. That's what it's designed to do. So if it's looking for, if you do, if you have 5 big wins, big things to do, and you only get 1, then your brain starts looking for all the ways life is going negatively. Whereas you label, oh, these 3 tiny things are wins, your brain starts looking for all the things that you win during the day and how things are going well. So part of these words we use very intentionally so that you can emotionally also begin to go, oh, okay, I'm doing okay today. I may not be where I want to be, but I'm doing okay today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really important because that can suck the energy out of you so fast
Very fast.
if you're down on what's happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've experienced this. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this in previous sessions. I don't think we talked about this last time for this
No. Yeah, I don't think
class.
so either.
So I'm just going to go over it just briefly. But basically, we're talking about accounting for your energy, okay? And how are you kind of, categorizing your energy during the day? Um, you may have heard about the spoon theory. We've talked about spoon theory before. But the idea is whatever, it could be spoons. You're basically talking about units of energy, okay? And it's very subjective. I mean, this is something that you have to do for yourself and think about because everybody's a little different. Spoon theory may not really resonate with you, and so you need to talk about it in a different way. But the idea is that you start your day with so much energy, right? Let's say I start my day with 12 spoons of energy. Okay, that's my unit. And I do some things in the morning, and by the time I get to 10 o'clock, I've depleted half of those spoons by just doing my morning routine. Okay. Now I know I only have like 6 more to go, and I still have all my work to do. Right. And so this is just a way for you to think about how am I spending my energy potentially? What takes the most amount of energy for me to do? And the reason we do this is so that we can think about, what's happening during our day. When do we have the more capacity to do different tasks and work that need to happen, right? And try to manage our day kind of in that way, so that we're not saving all of our really high energy tasks to the end of the day when all of our spoons are about depleted. Okay, so I know that's a little bit not cool. It's not super easy to think about spoons. It might be something else, but I think too, Maddie, like if we haven't already shared that link to that video,
I'm going to.
that Janice
Yeah.
sent to everybody.
Yeah, what I'll do is because Lynn asked the question about how do you decide how many spoons you have when you wake up in the morning. And that's the problem is it has to be subjective to you, like it has to be clear to you. So what I always tell people is kind of think about a day that you are doing super well. And say, okay, well, I have 12 spoons for that day, and just play with the numbers. The other thing I'm going to add in, Lynn, and for everybody else is we've created a spoon theory journal for you to use. And that will help you kind of with this piece. I just want, we wanted to introduce this concept because I think it's a really important one to visualize how many spoons you may have during the day. So, and again, it's subjective. Like I saw the other question, Lynn, about like, how do you decide? You have to decide that because your brain injury is personal to you, just like, all brain injuries are. So that might be, for example, let's say that you get up and get, you don't cook for breakfast, you just eat some yogurt, then maybe 1 spoon. because it doesn't take a whole bunch of spoons. Whereas getting dressed fully to go to work may take 3 spoons. Like it's just kind of a subjective to you, but the journal will help you determine all that.
Yeah, I know it's not necessarily an easy concept.
No,
But
but once you
again,
have it, it's a good
yeah,
visual.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I'll include the link to the spoon journal video that we used at our return to work conference.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
guys can have
that video is pretty helpful
It
because it
is.
walks through and gives examples.
Yeah.
And so I think that can be really helpful along with the journal that Maddie's
Yep.
talking about. So,
Yep.
but again, it's you understanding, what your best day looks like and how much energy you have on a really, really good day and then on a not so good day, right? I've started this morning and it's not my best day, so I only have half the energy to do stuff. So it will inform how you prioritize all of the tasks that you have to do. Okay.
And I just want to add to Don, I think, yeah, Don just did this. He put in there that he takes a rest during the day. The thing to remember about those things is they add spoons in. So it's like if I take a nap during the day, which I do on the weekends, it adds spoons to my day so that I have more spoons to do things later.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
take a nap because of my self-care, not because of any other reasons.
Yeah.
Like naps.
Yeah, the hard thing about this is it is very
Yeah.
subjective. So
Yeah.
hopefully
But
those tools will be helpful.
yeah, the journal will help you though.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we, determine how much energy we have and all that, we're also thinking about how do I prioritize all the tasks, right? So that whole list of brain dump things, okay? These are some questions that we can use to decide whether or not it's a priority, okay? There's lots of ways and methods to prioritizing things, but basically they all boil down to urgency and importance, okay? So does this have a hard deadline? Okay, so Maddie, when you had that list up, okay, one of the things was I need to make a doctor's appointment or something with my knee, right? Does that have a hard deadline? Right?
Yeah,
Well, if your knee's really, really hurting,
it has a hard deadline.
right, there's
Yeah.
some sort of hard deadline there because
Yeah.
you're going to need to get into the doctor, right, in order
Yeah.
to have this thing figured out. Because you can't function very well when you're in pain, right? And so that may put a deadline on that for you. It could also be something like, well, my boss wants me to get these things in by May 10th. Okay, well, that's a deadline, right? That's an absolute deadline that you have to do for work. So if it has a hard deadline, right, that might be something that you put towards the top of the list, right? The priorities, the top 3 or 5, okay? If not, you can move it to that I can do it later list, okay? I like to do where I label them 1, 2, 3 or A, B, C, okay? So there's lots of ways to do it, but you just note it that this doesn't have to happen right this second. This doesn't have to be the highest priority thing, okay? Do I have the brain power for this? Okay, so that goes back to the energy thing. I'm not going to try to sit down and do something that's going to cost me a ton of my cognitive energy if I just simply don't have it. Okay, because I'm going to be sitting here staring at my computer screen for an hour and nothing's going to happen. Okay, so there's other things to talk about in regards to what if I have to get things done and all of that. But if you are organizing your day ongoing like this, then hopefully you're not running into too many of those where you are pressed to get something done and you just don't have a choice, right? What happens if I don't do this today? Is another question you could ask about your brain dump list. Well, there's really only a couple ways that can answer. It's either going to ruin something if I don't do this today, or it's not. Or I can wait till later. Okay. So if nothing serious is going to happen if you don't do the thing, then you can decide whether it's important at all, like you need to have it there at all, or you can defer it to another day. Okay. The other one, and I think Maddie, maybe could speak to this a little bit more too. Does the thing support my recovery? Okay. So we want to try and prioritize things that help you in your recovery, help you heal. Okay. We don't want to spend all of our day doing things that only deplete our energy. We want to try our best to have things in there that support healing. So rest, your therapies, working on nutrition, making sure you're having, really balanced meals, um, potentially over other external demands. And again, I know this varies because some of us have
Mhm.
jobs, but that's kind of the idea there. But is there anything you want to say about that one, Maddie, with
Yeah, I think this is also really important when you think about external demands from other people, not necessarily a boss, because that needs to
yeah.
get prioritized for you to keep your job if you're working. But let's say that somebody wants to have dinner with you and you scheduled with them 2 weeks ago, and then you've realized, oh shoot, I gotta make it a doctor's appointment. And just so we're clear, that is not as simple as it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's something that you really have to do that may take a lot of time. And here's why that may take, when I mean time and energy, and here's why. Um, I was thinking about you guys today because I called my bank just to have an issue I got to deal with, and it took me 5 minutes to figure out how to get through the AI system. And that by that time I was really frustrated and mad. And so I probably spent 5 spoons on that one call. And so one of the things, the reason I'm telling you is that there are things that are going to take more energy than even we think they are. So if you have to call your doctor's office, the front desk is difficult to deal with. You know that you have to go through a recording system where you have to process really fast, like how to push the buttons, and then you have to figure out what to say and all that stuff. And that's just going to wear you out. Then maybe you cancel your dinner for that night because you don't have the capacity then to enjoy that. Maybe that dinner is more important to your healing process, is to connect with everybody. So you put off the doctor appointment for the next day. So I think what Jamie is saying is really true, is that this is why this is really hard, is because what works for me is not going to work for you, is not going to work for the next person because of the level of injury you have, your own personal needs, and what you want to do. But one of the things that's really important through this process is that you prioritize the things you need to help you with your recovery and your emotional capacity and your mental health and your mood. Because if you're wearing yourself out and frustrating yourself all day long, you're not going to have the capacity to do anything the next day. One of the things I see a lot is that the emotional piece is what really drags people down without them recognizing it while they're doing all their to-do list. So, and again, it could be that, okay, I have to call this doctor's office. But I don't know how I'm going to get through the system, but I have speech therapy this afternoon. So I'm going to have a speech therapist help me. So it's not even a do or don't. Sometimes I can prioritize this, but get someone to help too. But that's why it's so complicated. But I just want to make sure that you're focusing on your emotional energy as you're prioritizing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So again, we're talking about these are just examples of what we're calling high energy, low energy, etc. And you just gave that example, calling something like the insurance company or the doctor's office or the bank. That frustrates me on my best of
I
days,
can't even.
right? And it sucks the energy out. And so I know that. So I have to sort of ramp myself up and make myself some notes and kind of give myself a script to get me through that, right? And there's lots of strategies for that too, but that's not what we're talking about today. I'll go off on a tangent there, my speech therapy brain.
Scripts. We love
Yeah.
scripts.
So, the things for your health. Okay. Again, like for Maddie, it was find the blue folder because that was her doctor prep. She didn't even know where the blue folder is. And there's a doctor's appointment coming up. So the first thing she needs to do is put her eyes on that folder. Okay. And that may take a little while. Maybe maybe she's got it at number 2 because she knows it's going to take her a while to find it. Because maybe it's not, her desk got really unorganized or something. And then low energy, which is the small wins. And again, we're focusing on this was a task I did today. We do not want to minimize these small wins. Okay. I think I do this all the time. I'm like, oh, well, I'm supposed to do that. That's the thing
Yeah.
that I have to do, and I should be able to do that no matter what. No, it still takes your time and your energy
Yeah.
and your focus. And we should give it give it that, right?
Yep.
And so, but it may be a more low energy task. And so you put that in because you're like, well, I know I got to call the insurance company because that's gonna suck a lot of energy out. I know I got to find that blue folder. Not as much cognitive energy, but effort. It's going to take effort, right? It's going to take my time. And so I'm going to put another thing in there that I know is not really that much energy, right? In fact, maybe it even relaxes me. Maybe it even gives me a minute to just look at something, that's nature and it helps me kind of refocus myself, you're right? I walk outside and I go clean my
Mhm.
patio. Okay. Um, that's a chore. It's a task. It needs to happen. If it doesn't happen today, that's okay. My life's not going to fall apart if my patio doesn't get, swept, but it makes me feel good. I get to go outside. I get to look at nature, and I don't really have to think that much about it. Okay,
Mhm.
because I do it all the time, and it's just
That's an
something
important
that's
piece.
not all that hard for me to do. So just
Yeah.
think about what those things are in your life, because it may not be sweeping the patio for you. It might be something else, right? It might not be watering the plants. It might be something else. Okay, so just think about what those things are for you.
And
Um,
when we're talking about energy, let's make sure that, I probably should have put this in there. It's cognitive energy, not
yes.
necessarily physical injury energy, although sometimes you have to think about that too. But this is cognitive energy.
Yeah.
So as Jamie's saying, sweeping off the porch for her. Now, for other people, as I think Don is saying, he's got lots of stuff going on outside. That's
Mhm.
not going to be one of your
Not
things.
going to be your
That's
thing.
low
Yep.
energy.
Yep.
But all of us have low energy things, cognitive energy things that we can do.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, that's just my example.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
that's something that I do because it takes me very little brain power to do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And I can sort of rest. I can kind of rest while I'm doing it in a way, right? Because I'm not having to think really hard about it.
Hmm.
Um, so allocating time for tasks to support your consistent focus and neurological recovery. So your time and your pacing, we've kind of
Yeah.
talked about this, but we're
Hmm.
gonna we're gonna kind of take it a little bit further. And So we talk a lot about like, being aware of time and time blindness, and people may have heard these terms, but I'm going to go over them again. Time blindness is essentially this cognitive hurdle where the brain struggles to perceive the passage of time. Future events kind of feel abstract, and estimating task duration becomes stressful. Okay. And you're guessing. All right. Time awareness, the intentional use of external tools like timers, clocks, visual schedules are examples of this, to build a concrete scaffold or framework for your mind's internal clock. Okay. And so that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about time blindness and time awareness. And we realize that when we're talking about how to estimate time, which we'll do here in a little bit, it's not always that easy. Okay. It's not
Hmm.
always an easy thing to do. I don't know how long this thing's going to take. Okay. So we'll come up with share some strategies with you for that.
The one thing I want to add about this is I think this is a real struggle. Like you can feel like the whole day's gone by and it's just been an hour, or the vice versa. And even before your brain injury, or if you were, if you had a time and period of time where it was, that moment in time where you have the brain injury and your life changes. Time is a very, very, very difficult concept. And for those of you that are parents, you remember when your children were very young, they had no clue what time was. And so you had to stick with routines. The thing to remember is that this is not a fault. This is not something that you should be able to do. This is a function of your brain injury if you do not have a time concept. And so that's where the time awareness becomes really important, to use external tools, or as we call them, compensations, to help you know what time is. So if you're running late everywhere, this is where it becomes really important for you to educate people. Like if you're supposed to be somewhere at a specific time, and we'll talk about that's why the time, structuring your time becomes really important. But it's okay to, like, if there's somewhere that you're supposed to be, let's say you're supposed to meet your family at 10, this is when it becomes really important for your self advocacy to say, you know what, sometimes I run late, just be aware of that. It's a good boundary to throw out there, and it gives you a little bit breathing room if you're running late.
All right. So energy demand by task. Okay, so again, we like examples because
Yeah.
it's easy to talk about this and then we get into real life and we're like, wait, what? So there's going to be a ton of examples. But this is another way to look at this. So you're basically, again, you're scheduling your high effort tasks for when your energy is potentially the highest. Okay. It's going to be different for everyone. Maybe for some, it's right after their nap, right? Maybe for some, it's when they first get up in the morning. Maybe for some, it's later on in the day. Okay. But you have to be aware of yourself and what times of day you feel your best. Okay. Um, Deep focus work. Maddie, will you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could explain it a little bit better than
Yeah.
what I've
So
got.
this deep focus work is when it uses a lot of cognitive energy. So let's say that I'm having to plan some or let's choose one of example to be for you. So let's say that you are trying to figure out what your life's going to look like in the next year, and you want to set some goals around things you want to do to help you feel like you're moving forward in your life. That planning that takes this kind of abstract thinking, and it takes a lot of deep focus and time to do. So it's just as an example of what that looks like for me. I as Cerebrations CEO, I do a lot of planning for the future of programs and services. I do none of that past 10 o'clock, because after 10 o'clock, my brain is done. Not done, but that ability to think deeply I'm a morning person. So after 10 or 11, that process is done. So that's that deep focus work, is especially if you're working and there's some pieces of your work that requires a lot of planning and thinking, and you've got to just focus and do it. That deep focus work is what that is, but it's a lot of high cognitive energy, which is why you need to make sure you're doing it at the time of your optimal time of your brain energy.
Yeah, it requires intense, like focused mental effort usually.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and one of the things we try not to do during our deep focus work is making attempts at multitasking, right?
Yes. No.
This is something
Right.
that you're focusing on the one thing, okay? This does not mean you cannot take breaks,
Right. That's a very good
okay?
point. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But you're basically setting aside time to focus on something that's very high value for you.
Right.
Okay? That is going to require very specific, very intentional thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Yeah. And so, yeah, it does take a lot of effort, takes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
focus. We talk about social and planning. Okay, so those are kind of in there together, I think, because like we talked about before, planning takes effort and it takes sometimes a high cognitive amount of energy. I did not say that correctly.
You
It
did.
takes a high level of cognitive energy. I'm going to say it better. And then social,
Oh,
I mean,
takes a lot of energy.
that takes for a lot of people, myself included, lots of our clients,
Introverts.
that is so much effort. And
Yeah.
they want to do it. Uh, but sometimes it just really takes a ton of spoons. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of energy out of them, right? And so that needs to be planned for. You need to be thinking about that when you're making plans to do things that are social, okay? Um, because maybe it does drain you.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe worth it, okay? Like Maddie was talking about, maybe that helps in your recovery because you need to be in contact with your friends and family or whatever. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be one or the other, right? You can meet with your people and get filled up in that way, hopefully positively. But knowing that it may take fairly significant energy to do it. Okay. And we know that there's a lot of things that go into that. All
Mm-hmm.
right. It could be communication issues. It could be just, the noise and the hubbub around like a family party. It could be a lot of different things. It could be just the social pressure of being out after your injury and what's that going to
Mm-hmm.
look like, right? It could be a lot of stuff like that.
All
So,
the uncontrollable noises too. The thing about social,
mhm,
and then I just want to point out real quick is that there's a lot of pieces you don't have control over.
yeah.
So one of the things that I think the reasons that people with brain injuries often can be isolated is because you can control your internal environment at your home,
Hmm.
hopefully, or at least your room. And it is the way. So when you go out into a social event, often there is a lot of stuff you can't control, like the noise, the lights, the background information, the music. So just I think that's just a good point to keep in mind. So yes, you need to, be spending time in community, but sometimes but it can be a very high energy task. So
Right. So these are things to consider, as you're
yeah.
as you're looking at what you've got going on, and you're looking at your calendar and you're looking at the things that need to happen, right? Household tasks could be moderate. For some, maybe not so much. For some, maybe
Mhm.
more, right? Again, depends on physical, cognitive energy that's needed to do it. I don't climb, out on the roof and do stuff, like, right? That would be way too much for me.
Yes.
Um, but, vacuuming is okay,
Yeah.
okay, for me. So yeah, again, you just have to decide what's healthy for you to be doing, as well as, figuring out what things that need to happen in order for your household to stay running. Okay.
Right.
And then your personal routine. I mean, this could be a lot of different things. Okay. Um, although I would say that if it has to do with going to the gym or something, that might be a little bit more moderate, because maybe you're, again, depending on your
Mhm.
situation, you may be going out, you may be interacting with people. So there might be a social component to that, right? So not everything fits perfectly into each of these
Mhm.
categories. It's just a way for you to think about what's going on in your life and how much energy you need in order to do it. Okay.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts on personal routine? I couldn't come up
Mhm.
with any examples. I mean, maybe it's just getting up and getting dressed in the morning,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I think it's the things that you just automatically do that you don't have to think about. Like, and
Okay, right.
as you know, after your brain injury, often those things you have to think about, but they do become routine and they do become the things that you do automatically. The
Yeah.
one thing to remember, and this is why this stuff is so hard, is that if you have a morning routine and your routine gets out of whack, it will cause more cognitive energy that day because you're having to think about what to do. So that's why I know we say this a lot with brain injuries. People ask questions and we're like, it depends, because it depends on you, depends on where your injury was. It depends on who you were before, depends on how your brain works. But I think just giving you some examples of how to think about this is helpful.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Okay. So this is routine blocks. Okay. So we'll talk about time blocking a little bit. Um, and so the idea here is that you're not necessarily scheduling in your calendar every little thing. Okay. That's not the place to put the procedural checklist. All right.
right.
But you're blocking off time that you think you'll need in order to do whatever it is. Okay. So, for example, 8 o'clock in the morning may be your morning anchor. Okay. Where you review your routine and how you're going to pace your day. Okay. I started doing something recently that I can't go without now, and that has become my morning routine. Maddie knows because now I do some different breathing exercises and stuff in the morning
Mm-hmm.
to start my day off a little bit more better for
Calm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then maybe at 10:30 you have a focus block where you do a high demand task, okay? That's if mornings are your better time, okay?
Right.
If mornings are your better time, you could do something like that where you're doing it at 10:30. If you're Maddie, it might be 6 a.m.
Right.
But if you're me, it's probably like 9:30, right? So you just have to gauge what are your best times, okay? But that's maybe where you put a high demand task. Then maybe you do a mandatory rest period halfway through the day. You have your lunch and you do something that doesn't really require any stimulation, really. Okay. Something where you can sit back. Some people said they take a nap. Maybe you like to go into a quiet, darker room and just sit and just be in the quiet, right? But whatever it happens to be, maybe that's what you do in the middle of your day if you need to. Okay. And then maybe in the afternoon you decide to block off some time to do a low effort tasks. Like maybe for you that's chores, emails, etc. For some of us, emails are not low effort. Okay. Some people it is, but you just have to decide what your lower effort tasks are. And then maybe in the afternoon, you do a little reset where you do just some sort of thing that's a gentle activity. Okay. But again, this is sort of just a framework idea. All right. Where you'll have to decide what fits. Okay. What do I need to be doing at what times of day? Okay. So it kind of goes back to that whole when am I at my best? When can I do the high demand tasks? What should I save for when I have lower energy? Okay. And start thinking about it a little bit that way, maybe. So sometimes you can't plan ahead, right? Necessarily. And I know people that can't do this necessarily. I'm thinking of somebody in particular that, you know, the way they feel kind of ebbs and flows. I mean, you can do it by day. You can wake up in the morning and say, what are my spoons? How many spoons do I have? And let me kind of plan out based on that. Um, you know, some people like to plan out a little further. I particularly like to plan out a little bit further, but knowing that stuff's going to come up, okay? And that my plans may change a little bit, and I may need to do a little bit of flexibility there, right? But you could. I have lots of people who that's what they do every morning. They get up and what is this day going to look like? And they spend, you know, 10 or 15 minutes thinking through all the things that they have to do. Maddie and we're almost close. We're getting close to it. We're about to go through all of that again, and kind of go step by step. So you'll get a bit of an example. We'll walk through it together. Okay, Maddie,
So
yep.
this is my calendar. And so what you'll see here is, like one of the things I have to do, and this is a little bit, this works for my brain, not necessarily everybody else's brain. So and this is a little jumbled, I think, especially when you first start doing this, but I go to the gym, I move this at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's when I start my day, but it was weird on the calendar. So I may go to the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get dressed and make my lunch between 9 and 10. Now, the reason, do I spend 2 hours doing all that? No. But on a weekday or weekend day, I like to take a slower pace and I like to not necessarily do a bunch of stuff. I like to, you know, to meander around a little bit and have some coffee. And so that's that time block we said, that it's not that I'm getting dressed and making lunch between 9 and 10, but that I'm actually moving around a little bit. I might have to travel somewhere to go to the office or to go somewhere at 10 o'clock. Every day on my calendar, I tell myself what time I'm going to answer emails. Here's why I do that. Otherwise, I'm answering emails all day long. My attention goes into the electronics super fast. And so I block my time to answer emails. So I'm not distracted all the time with what's going on in the email. I haven't done that this week, and I can tell because I've been in the emails and chats all week. I may have a meeting from 11 to 11:50, and then I schedule a lunch break for at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, every single day, because I have to force myself to take a lunch or I won't. I will sit and work through things, and then not give my brain a break. I may have another meeting from 1 to 1:50, and then I gave myself after that an hour and a half for some presentation prep. So that I have, that's that hour and a half of time that I know I need to do that. Now, this is an example. I mentioned I'm an early morning person, so that normally would be at the beginning of the day. At 3:30, I have to stop and go and pick up my child. It's an important part of the day, but I schedule my travel, and here's why. If I don't schedule my travel time, my alarm goes off at 3:20 and says, "Hey, you're supposed to be getting your kid." Well, I'm 20 minutes away, so that's too late. So I actually schedule my time in there so that I know this is what time I actually have to leave to pick him up at 3:30. And then I may prep for dinner, and then we have dinner and rest. So there's an hour and a half window in there where it doesn't take us an hour to eat dinner, but my son may be very talkative that day. So I want to give myself that time and space so I'm not moving on to the next thing. Then at 6:15, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
6:15, I'm going to prep for tomorrow. This is a really important piece because if I don't schedule time to look at my calendar for tomorrow, I will run into tomorrow and not have any idea what I'm supposed to be doing. And then at 7, all my electronics are off. I have my nighttime routine, which includes putting all of my stuff in the place I can find it the next morning. So I'm not running around like a chick with my head cut off. And then for me, after 7 o'clock, it's really super important that the screens are off, computer's off, TV's okay for a little while, but if not, then I will get into a rabbit hole or I will be on the screen too long to be able to sleep. So that's an example of what my schedule looks like for me. The other things you can do, and we'll show you this if we have time, but the electronic calendars are really nice because you can actually color code things. And I didn't do that just for simplicity's sake, but my calendar is actually very color coded, so I know like even what category things go into. So all of my personal stuff is blue. So I know that that's personal stuff, and I've got to figure out whether I can flex that around or not. So.
Yeah, I think it's important to note again, everybody's capacity is different and everybody's days are different. And some of you are looking at this going, oh my gosh, right?
Welcome my day.
Everything's in there, right? Start if you're not doing something and maybe you don't have a calendar or whatever, maybe yours is paper. That's fine too. It doesn't have to be digital. This is just again an example of what it could look like potentially. But I think starting with the high things like the appointments, the things that you have to get to that require travel time and stuff like that. If you're finding that you're becoming overwhelmed putting individualized like tasks in, then you can time block a window of time and then go back to your list that you wrote, and go through that way. So there's lots of ways to do this. And again, the idea is not for it to cause you more overwhelm. So this may not be exactly the way you need to do it. But I think the important things here for Maddie's are that she's busy, right? She's got a lot going on. And the things that I hear that are really important for sure are she has definitely set aside time for her reset. Okay. Because she knows she's not going to do it otherwise. It has to be blocked off for her. Because if not, she's going to end up putting something else in there and not get a break.
Yep. That's exactly what happens.
So if you find yourself just running, going, you may need to be one of those people that needs to say, okay, I have got to stop for 30 minutes at lunchtime, whatever that looks like. And I have to go away from my screen, or if I have to, go away from my desk or whatever it is that I'm doing. And I'm going to go have a bite to eat. And maybe I'm not going to make it something complicated, right? Maybe I'm going to do something or prep it ahead of time or something like that. But you just have to think about what are the high points, and again, what's making it doable for you to be able to get through your day and be able to accomplish some of the things that you would like to accomplish, right? And part of that is making sure that you're having whatever necessary reset time that you need. Okay. Right here, you've got electronics off because, we all get sucked into that. So if you're finding that you're having a hard time and you need to put a little reminder in there, this is my time period of electronics off and my nighttime routine needs to start. Okay. Whatever your nighttime routine is, you don't necessarily need to write it all in there, but now you've blocked off the time to do it. Okay. So I'm personally, and I think a lot of us are more likely to do the thing if we actually plan to do it. Okay. And I think that's what comes across with a lot of the people that we work with. And again, myself included.
Yeah.
If I'm not telling my time where to go, I'm definitely not going to get things done. Right. And I know that there's things that come up in our life and our plan doesn't always go perfectly. And that's okay. That's okay. This is not for the plan to go perfectly. This is just your best effort to make it happen. Right. So
I think the other thing too, and then we'll stop for questions and then
Yeah.
we'll do the example. But the other thing too is that as we talked about, if you again, you have to find the system that works for you. But having all this stuff out of my head is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Because I don't, even though no, I'm not going to forget to go pick my child, I will forget to pick him up on time. because I get so focused on things. So that is one less thing that I have to keep going. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? So it's not pulling my cognitive energy to something that I could just set an alarm for and then it tells me.
Yeah.
Right.
I hear a lot of clients. I mean, gosh, how long have we been doing this, Maddie?
Long time.
And all the time, I hear people tell me, "Well, I never had to do that before."
Right.
And I'm like, "Yeah, lucky you, because I've always had to do
Yeah.
this. I don't know how my brain would work without it." But sometimes, things change. And so having to figure out this process and what works for you can take a lot of effort. And
Yeah.
we understand that. But if we're not accounting for our time in some way, shape, or form, we're potentially costing energy. We're costing we talked about anxiety and things that provoke a little bit of anxious feelings. Like there's a lot of things that can happen if we're not, kind of keeping an accounting of kind of what's going to be happening. So,
Yeah, and
this
the
is
other
the
thing, real
way.
quick, I want to point out too, and then we have Janice has a question.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you think about like, do I use paper or do I use electronics? If you did not use an electronic calendar, like a phone calendar, before your injury, do not jump into that. Go back to the paper because it's what your brain knows. After a brain injury, typically new learning is really, really is harder. And the phones have a million and one distractions that will be
Mhm.
overwhelming for your brain. So if you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out where to start, just start. And I'll include a basic weekly calendar in the stuff that I send Janice. Just start there because it's what you already know. Janice, I got your question and I'll stop for any other questions. So Janice asked, should routine blocks be planned a day ahead? Was that your question, Janice?
Yes, it is.
I tried to answer it. I'm sorry if I didn't.
You
Yeah, would
did.
you?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
good.
I
Yeah,
saw
so
that one.
yeah, so just so that you got your answer. Any other questions before we move into doing a practice?
There wasn't any question. There was a comment from Don about
Oh
some
yeah.
years ago.
So yeah, I saw that, Dawn, around the untied, like so, and this is what Jamie was talking about. Like, your day can go perfectly fine, and then it cannot. And so if there is something that happens, especially, so let me give you an example. I've gotten older. I tend to drink caffeine in the mornings, and I have to go to the bathroom 14 times in the morning. So there's some TMI for you guys. But the reason why I mentioned that is Don had put in the comments that sometimes you just have to go like to the bathroom during this routine and you're trying to get out of the house. Build the time in. If you know that's a situation, build the time in. If you don't need the time, then you just have extra time. So if you're going to do a morning routine block and it's usually, let's say it's you think it's about an hour, but there may be some unexpected things that happen, just schedule an hour and a half. And then if you have the extra time, great. So it's a good point.
Yeah. 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 I agree. That one's no, it's not always easy.
No, and
Right.
that's why you always, especially in the beginning, want to build in more time than you need and that you think you need. Let me put it that way. Because if you build in more time than you think you need, then you have extra time. It's like, oh, look,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
You can, yeah, listen to some
Instead of the
music
other
or
way around.
I don't know. So
That's
do
right.
something else.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And Janice, if anybody raises their hand, I'm gonna let you help us with this. Is
Okay.
anybody interested in us?
We have a question.
Oh, good. Go for it.
A hand is raised. Go ahead, Luna.
Thank you. You mentioned last time, Maddie, that our brain can get used to alarms if we're setting too many.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're getting into this time but in looking at your calendar and hearing you talk about the alarms you set, how do you compensate for our brain getting used to that? Thank
It's a
you.
good question, Luna. Every 3 months, I have on my list of things to do is to change the alarm on my phone.
So the sound,
The sound,
the
to change
sound
the
is different.
sound. Yes, so that's something that I just have on my calendar every 3 months, is to change the sound of the alarm, because as Luna was talking about the last session, we were talking about how your brain gets used to the alarms. But that's, and I'll be honest, I don't use them for everything. For every appointment or every block you saw, I don't use an alarm for all of those. I use an alarm for meetings and for going to pick up my son. So I don't see them or hear them all day long either, but for the important stuff that I have to do. But yes,
Yeah.
that's what I do, Luna. It's a good question.
Yeah. I tend to not use very many alarms myself.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to do something new, I will
Mm-hmm.
often set an alarm, like something I'm not used to doing, that's not a part of my life that much. If it's just, I'm trying to think of an example. Well, doing my breathing exercises
Yeah.
in the morning,
Yeah.
I have a different kind of thing for that, but that could be something, that I might set an alarm for a time to be a reminder. But I've gotten so used to looking at my compensations in my
Yeah.
calendar. I'm looking at it a lot.
A lot.
And so I see the things in there a lot.
Yeah.
And I use it as my second brain. And I go there and say, basically, second brain, what do I have next? Kind of thing.
Right.
And I go in there and look at it. So because of that very reason that you're talking about, because I know that even alarms that you set to wake up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
After a while, you stop hearing them and you realize, oh, I'm kind of oversleeping a little bit. So I need to reset my alarm
Yeah.
sound. And so certainly don't want it jolting me out of bed. Like I want to have a little bit quieter morning and kind of get up a little bit nicer, but you might consider doing that because, yeah, it's kind of an ongoing issue with those
Yep.
alarms. So we're going to
Brain
start.
gets used to them.
If Maddie, you want to pull up the
I
brain
do.
dump.
There it
So what
is.
we're going to do now is we're going to go through kind of all of those things we were talking about. Okay. Starting with our brain dump. All right. Now, the first thing I usually tell people to do, because, you know, um, we all have doctor's appointments, right? Therapy appointments. Some of us are working, right? Those are the big ticket things, right? Those are the appointments with other people. Those are the places you have to go, all that kind of stuff. Usually I start with saying, make sure those are in your calendar, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's a
I
good point.
find that happens a lot is that
Yeah.
people are forgetting to or missing, appointments and they're not looking in their calendar often enough and realizing, oh, great, I thought I had this in there. When do I have to do this? Or they get a text message from the doctor's office, hey, we're expecting you tomorrow. And you're like, what? You know, so make sure those things are in your calendar. I know you're going to get text reminders from places. Don't rely on those. Okay, try to get them into your day, into your calendar. So that's probably the first thing you're going to do is you're going to actually add the things you already know about, the things that are blocked in, that are appointments, that are those higher priority things. Okay. And then on a daily basis or sometimes weekly or whatever you're capable of doing, right? Whatever you feel like you can do, you're going to go in and you're going to do your brain dump. Okay. And so Maddie and I are going to brain dump, and we're going to use Maddie's. She says she'd be the example if that's okay, Maddie.
Sure.
We're going to go in and brain dump all the things that we're thinking of, and I might add some in here too. Pick up dog food. Okay, we're brain dumping right now. I need to schedule to get my tires rotated on my car. Okay. What else you got, Maddie?
So I need to finish my son's birthday reservations.
Mm.
And then I need to restock my bookcase because I just got a new bookcase and there's a disaster.
And I think we should put in because what's going on with my sleep was one from before.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, how, my sleep patterns and what's going on there because I feel a little tired.
Journal, sleep
Um,
patterns. Whoops, there it goes.
or I was really prone to being very, very emotional yesterday and like,
Mm-hmm.
what's up with that, right?
Actually, I'm going to change that for my favorite. Use Think Clarity app. my favorite app, to determine emotions yesterday.
Okay. And this list could get longer, for sure.
Yeah.
But for our purposes right now, we're going to use this amount of stuff, okay? And Maddie and I are basically representing one of you, like one person that's
Yes.
doing this brain dump. Okay, so we both put ideas in here, but essentially this is like kind of what you would be doing. Okay, you'd be
Yeah,
sitting down and
I want to add a couple,
typing in.
like I need to call the neurologist. I need to call SSDI about my money.
Mhm.
Okay.
And sometimes we need to report too our income,
Report my income
right?
to DES and SSDI.
Okay,
There's a social worker in me.
that's the social, yeah. So we're looking at this list now.
Yep.
Okay. And what were some of the things that we talked about? How do we deal with this list now once we've got everything brain dumped? If anyone remembers.
What's the second step to this once we
Yep.
break them?
Once we get everything down,
You can either come off mute or you can put it into the chat.
and it's okay if you don't remember.
It's a lot of
We've
information.
talked about a lot.
It's a lot of information.
Is it prioritized?
Yes,
Yes.
that's right, Shayna.
Yeah.
It's prioritized.
So now we're going to
Yeah.
look at each of these line items, okay? And we're going to give it some sort of value, okay, essentially. And for our purposes today, like Maddie, maybe we use what you want to do top three. But I like to go through it and I like to say
Me
like
too.
A, B, C. Okay.
So that's fine.
So all of my A's are
Priority.
things that are top priority or require
priority.
an extensive amount of time or have some sort of deadline.
Okay.
Okay. B's are things that I want to be able to accomplish today, but they're not the highest priority.
Can I interrupt? The chat seems to be disabled for me, so I'm not sure if that's
Oh,
a setting
It's
or
it's not
anyway.
disabled. It only goes to the host and co-host. You can still type in it.
For me it says disabled and it doesn't let me type.
oh.
Sorry. Thank
So we've got A's, which are our top priority.
Just real quick, Jamie,
Yeah.
Luna, since you can't type, if you have something to add, just raise your
Yeah.
hand and when we get to a stopping point, we'll get to you. Okay. Thank you.
And again, we're going back to that. If I didn't complete it today, what happens?
Right.
Do I need to be able to complete it today? A's are, yeah, I need to be able to get it done today. B's are, I would like to get it done today, but if I don't get it done today, I could probably do it tomorrow, you know. And C's are, at some point, I would like to do this. Okay. They're not like super high priority. So I kind of like to go through it that way. So then I go through my list and I say, okay, picking up dog food. Well, I have to think about that, right? Or do my dogs have food now? How much food do they have left? Right? And if they're down to like the last 2 cups of food, then that's something I need to handle today because they need to eat, right? And so I make it an A.
I'm going to change the color real quick, Jamie. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Scheduling to get my tires rotated. Okay, I have to think about that one too because I go, well, my car's at that, 60,000 mile thing. And so I actually did have to do this. I actually did it this morning. I had to look through and say, is this necessary to do right now? And how do I know? So I had to do a little bit of research because the reason I thought of that was because I got a little indicator on my car that said you're probably due for this, right? And so it kind of told me that. So I did have to do a little bit of research. And what I found out was I'm probably okay. But I went ahead and took care of it today because it needs to happen. And I went ahead and had scheduled it, right? And so it doesn't take me very
Okay.
long to schedule it, right? I just have to go online to Discount Tire and I put the little thing in and, then we're off to the races, right? So I knew it wasn't going to take me a lot of energy and all of that. So I took care of that today. But it's a B. If it doesn't happen today, like, it's all right. I can do it tomorrow. Okay. But it's important to do, and I need to do it fairly soon. Um, Finish my son's birthday reservations. Well, Maddie, when's your son's his birthday's coming up?
In a week and a half, so that would be nice.
So that would be important, right? Because if it doesn't happen today or tomorrow, like they're
Yeah,
not going to have reservations for dinner. Okay.
yeah.
Restocking my bookcase.
I mean, that's really a C. And now it
Hmm.
depends. So it doesn't bug me. So having stuff in places doesn't necessarily bug me. It is a mental load, but
Hmm.
it can wait for a couple of days. It's not something
Yeah.
that has to be done today. So,
Yeah. I can think about that for later.
yep.
Journaling my sleep patterns. Again, maybe it feels a bit urgent because
Yeah.
maybe I haven't been sleeping very well. We just had this conversation with somebody, that's started having some stuff and they weren't sleeping great and it was really affecting their ability to do things, right? And so maybe that is something that needs to start happening today. Okay.
Oops.
And so maybe I need to schedule that because then I need to think about maybe talking to my doctor after that, right? And I don't want to delay, okay, because it's really important that I'm getting enough sleep. Maddie, using Clarity app to determine emotions yesterday.
So, in my estimation, this is something that you'd like to get done, but the world's not going to end. So
Hmm.
if you start looking, and this is what I think is really good about this process, and I like the A, B, and C, is you start going, oh, I already have 3 A's today.
Hmm.
And Maddie, in her counseling session asked me to do that, but she also told me not to like to sweat, to get stressed if I can't. So I'm starting to think like today is going to be too big of a day. So we're going to put that as a C. I don't have to do that today. The
Okay.
world's not going to end if I don't.
Right. Calling the neurologist. Well, you got to think about what it's about.
Yeah.
Is it urgent? Is it something that really needs to happen ASAP? And again, it depends on you and what's going on and all of that. Maybe this is the case where you're just waiting on some routine
Mhm.
sort of lab results or something, right? And you just want to call and get the results. Um, that maybe takes less cognitive energy than if you have to
Mhm.
call and actually talk to the neurologist about a new diagnosis, right?
Mhm.
That would take a lot of emotional energy and cognitive energy potentially. Um, so what do you think, Maddie?
I'd say a B because let's just say that I just need a follow-up appointment and
Yeah,
that doesn't have to be done today.
yeah, yeah,
I would like to do it to get it off my chest. And sometimes that takes a while to get in, but I don't have to do it today.
right. So calling SSDI about my money and reporting my income to DES and SSDI. How much energy does this take, Maddie?
A lot of energy.
Okay. Yeah.
Takes a lot of energy these days. And so let's just go under the assumption that really what you're calling SSDI about is that your check was $10 less than what it was supposed to be, which can happen. And yes, you need to get the $10 back, but it's not going to make or break you right this second. And so you can just make that a C, as in I can do that next week. That's okay.
Okay.
Report my income to SS. Let's just say in this instance, you just started working, like you just got a job. You don't have to report your income to DES and SSDI immediately. You have 30 days. So this is something that also, if we're going under that assumption, that could be a C as well.
Yeah.
Again, this all depends on your situation and so there are some people, for example, let's say that all your access, your Medicaid and your nutrition assistance have been cut off. That becomes an immediate A, right? But in this situation, let's just say that we just have to report our income. So we can wait on that.
Yeah. So now what do we do with this? Because now we've decided the things that are the highest priority for today, which are picking up the dog food, finishing the reservations, journaling our sleep patterns. And then the next thing, if we get done with all of that, we might have time to do some of the B's, which are scheduling for the tires and calling the neurologist. We might even have some time to get to some of the C's today. If everything goes well and you're feeling good and you get through some of those other things a little quicker than you thought, that's possible. But how do we know what to do with these now? Do we just leave them on this list? Or do we need to put them someplace?
What's our next step?
What's the next step?
Can come off mute, or you can put it in the chat if you have access.
So
uh-huh.
Maddie's gonna pull up.
Yep.
We created a calendar. Go
Real
ahead.
quick, Jamie, I think what
Yeah.
I'm going to do is I'm going to put this list in because you're not going to be able to see the list we just did.
Mhm.
So I'm going to put that in the chat
Okay.
so you can see it. Okay.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
And
So
Lynn has her hand up.
oh yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
Yes, okay. So I'm just going back to what we first were doing with the brain dump
Yeah.
and prioritizing. I tried to write this down because yeah, the chat was closed. Do you just ignore all the wondering and emotional and here's things on my mind items?
So
Or
we
what's
did
the
that
purpose of that?
that's a great question. We did this. We did not do that because we're of the time frame that we have available to us. So some people for this session. So some people, that's for me, Land, that is super helpful because my brain is going 47,000 miles an hour. And so to write down all of the wondering is helpful for me to get it off my brain. And so yes, you want to do that. The for the sake of the exercise in our time, we did not do that in the brain dump, just so we could move that onto the calendar.
So these are
But then what do you do with it? Do you just,
I
I
do
wrote it down,
exactly.
now I
Yeah.
ignore it or what?
No, so I do exactly the situation we just did. I go and give it an assignment of whether that's an A, B, or C. And the reason why I think that's important, I'm glad you're asking this question, is if it's something I'm wondering about, why I was so upset yesterday, that may be an A because you got to go figure out what was going on because that took a lot of the cognitive energy for you to have so many emotions yesterday. But it may be a C that you can talk to your counselor about next week. So even if you do all of the wondering, still assign it an A, B, or C so you know where it's supposed to go in your priority list to know what to do with it.
So from that, I'm trying to figure out. So are you like scheduling time to come back and think about those things, or if you go, oh, this is a priority, I get tasked, but then all the other things you said, like the wondering or emotional or here's on my mind or any of those kind of things, I understand tasks, but I don't understand. Are we supposed to you're saying to prioritize them, but I don't know how to plug that into what you're talking about as far as
Yeah.
a concrete task, or do I schedule time to think about that, or I don't know.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
this might help. So again, we're dumping stuff out, right? You're dumping out all the things to get them off of here, off of your mind, right? You are the ones that need to become an action item.
A task,
Okay. Does that make sense? So right now,
Uh-huh.
the ones that are needing to become an action item, something that I need to do, is getting an A, B, or C. There may be things on your list that you're putting there, and that's all you do with it. And that's okay, right? Just because it's on the brain dump doesn't mean you have to necessarily do something with it. But if you feel like you need reflection time, you could certainly schedule yourself time to reflect on what it is that's, all of that's going on. You could do that. Maddie, what's your suggestion on that?
I think that's yeah, because I think some people, this is why the brain dump is so different, because some people don't have the wonderings, they're just task oriented. And so I think Lynn or other folks, if that's part, like if you do all the brain dump and it has all the non-task pieces, what I would suggest you do is that you maybe then have two lists. You have the action items, the tasks that have to get done, and then you have a journaling list that you then can go back and reflect, and you schedule time to do that. So my scheduled time for the reflection piece is first thing in the morning. And that's when you could go back then to the reflection piece and go, okay, what is this?
Right.
Is that helpful, Lynn?
Yeah, kind of. I appreciate you kind of breaking it down. That gives me at least a
Yeah.
direction
So
to go with that.
I would make two different lists after you brain dump, the task list and then the wandering list, if you have the time and energy. And then that way, the task list, you're giving a priority. And the wandering list, you can go back to and reflect on later.
So if you're able to do this at the same time, you can. So if you've got your piece of paper, for example, you can split it down the middle, and
Mhm.
all the things that are to do, like actions for sure, can go on one side, and the things that you're just kind of like thinking about, that are wondering about, or things that you're reflecting on, could go on the other side, and they can be
Or con
moved. Like
or
they can be moved
concerned
from back and side.
concerned about like
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to solve a problem or
Hmm.
things
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
particular problem it's going to take you a while to think through it, right? And so it does take time in your day to do that. And maybe you don't have the time right now. You know what I mean? Maybe you've got to put it off until later in the day. But I think that Maddie makes a good point. Not everything that goes on the dump has to have has to be tasked. Doesn't have to necessarily go on the to-do list. But you do have to make that determination based on your own needs and what's going on
Um,
with you.
so
Yeah.
hang on just a second, Lynn. So
Yeah.
we've got about 15 minutes and I'll make sure we get to the calendar. Lynn, I'll make sure get my information from Janice if you want to walk through this further and we can do that. Dawn, I see you have a question and just real fast because we want to make sure we get to the calendar. So
When you make the list, you could
Mhm.
do an arrow to create two separate
Yeah,
lists.
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. It
Yeah,
has to
and I
work
think
for you.
this
That's
is
the
and
thing.
yeah, this is the
Yeah.
important thing, and this is why this can be really hard because what works for one person does not work for the other person. And so if you're in speech therapy, I'd really encourage you to talk of speech therapists about finding your best way to do all these things. If you're thinking about going to work, we can certainly help you with that through
Yeah.
vocational rehabilitation. Okay.
Or your OT
Or
also.
so yes, your OT also does this.
Yeah,
Yes.
OTs often do this as well.
Yes,
So
they
that's
do.
where we overlap a little bit, and I'm always going to the OTs, asking
Right.
them things too. So, but again, how you do it, I mean, if you like to color code, color code. If you
I
like to
do.
split it into two sides, split it. If you like
Yeah.
two separate pieces of paper, have two separate pieces of paper. Like whatever it is that will work for you, that makes it make sense to you the best. If that makes if I'm saying makes sense. I'm starting to tie my words up. My mouth's getting tired. Okay, so what we're looking here at is a example of this happens to be a Google Calendar, but you don't have to be using Google Calendar. You might be using your Apple Calendar. You might be using a paper and pencil system. Okay. I have a paper and pencil system. All right. I can't show it to you because of the way the screen is, but I like to do things on paper. But
It's not your
either
phone.
way, the concepts are going to be very similar. Okay. So we've got to put in all of our big things, and I'm going to get everything in there. We're going to get. You have one with your appointments on it, Maddie. Do you
Hmm?
have the one with your appointments still? All the
What do you
things,
mean?
the one you just
Oh
showed
no,
us
I
earlier.
don't. I think I deleted it.
Oh
I
no.
don't know why I did that, but yeah, I
Keep
did.
going. Keep
So
going.
let me just put
Okay.
some in here real
So
quick.
we're going to put some stuff in because this would represent client like a doctor's appointment. Like you said, picking up your kid from school is an appointment with yourself. There could be meetings with friends where you're going out to lunch. There might be something like I had this morning, which was getting my tires rotated. So she's going to just put a few in there real quick. And right now we're looking at Monday the 11th here. Okay.
Yeah.
So ideally, when you're looking at your calendar, these other days will have stuff on them too. Okay. Because you will already have put in the appointments when you get them, right? As soon as you know what the appointment is, you're going to put it in that calendar, right? So ideally, you would see it pretty, fairly full because you've got some things already scheduled out. Okay. So Maddie's going to do that here. So as she's doing that, we're going to go through, I'm going to get one more in there. And this is something that I find a lot of, we start here. honestly, because I think this can get overwhelming pretty quickly. So if the only thing you can do right now is to get your appointments in your calendar, okay, do that. At least get those in there. Okay. Um, then when you feel like you're ready to do all of this other stuff, then we're going to show you how to do that right now. Okay. So this is Maddie's week, let's say. All right. And we've got Monday and Tuesday right now that have appointments in them. And we're looking at our brain dump list over here, which is in the chat. Okay. And we've got our top priorities, right? We've already decided what our top priorities are for today. So we're going to add them in. So I need to A, pick up dog food. So I need to look at that and go, where can I do that? Well, I could, right now, it looks like I could do it in the morning on Monday, or it looks like I could do it after I pick my kid up from school. So I just have to make a decision. All right. So I'm going to put, let's say we're going to we got the kid from school, we're in the car, we're going to swing by, the pet store and we're going to get the food. Okay. So we'll put that in there. We'll talk another time about all the little nuances to like Google Calendar, but for right now, we're putting them in as an event. Okay. For those of you who know that calendar. All right, so the next thing is we've got finish my son's birthday reservations. That's A. That requires us to be on the phone probably, or maybe even go onto an app like Open Table or one of those to do the reservation, right? Most of the reservations are done online or by phone. So I can do that when I'm at home, essentially. And so maybe I'm going to do that like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning before I have to get my day going and start my meeting, which is already scheduled. So we're going to finish, get reservation. And you want to put enough information into the event that later, like when you look at it again later, you know what you were talking about. So Maddie put get birthday reservations. Okay. And she feels like that's enough detail to let her know that's exactly what she needs to do. Okay. We try to keep it short and sweet, but we don't want it to be so short that you're wondering what on earth did I mean by this when I put this in here, right? You want it to have some detail. All right, so we put that in. The next thing is journal sleep patterns. Oh, you know what, Maddie? Okay, we'll do this in a minute. Journal sleep patterns. So we scheduled, looks like 9 to 9:15 to call and get birthday reservations. Okay. Journaling my sleep patterns, that probably will only take another, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that right after I get the birthday reservations done. Okay. And I'm really sorry, guys. I sort of skipped over a step because I was doing it in my own head, and I apologize for that. So what you're doing is you're going through your brain dump and you're taking the top ones, the A's in this case. And you're saying, how long is it going to take me to do it? And when can I do it? Okay. So like with the picking up dog food, Maddie's got a 30-minute window because she knows it's not going to take them very long to get into the store, buy the food, and get back into the car and all of that, right? Maybe that takes you longer. So maybe you need to put a little bit longer. So it just depends again on you and what kind of time you need to do things. Once you've got all your A's, your top priorities in there, then what's next?
B's.
Yep, then we're going to go to the B's. So we still have time in our day, right? According to this calendar, okay, we still have time in our day. So we're going to go back to the B's and we're going to say, what are the B's? Okay, how long is it going to take me to schedule to get my tires rotated? Not that long. Okay, I have to make a call or I have to go online. So I'm going to give it 15 minutes because that's just kind of a nice number for this calendar. And we're going to put it in, let's see here. When could we do it? I've got a big opening between 10 o'clock and 1 when my meeting starts. I'm thinking I don't want to do it right before my meeting because I don't want to be frustrated or like I want a little space between when I do the scheduling and when I have my meeting. So since I'm already on the phone getting my birthday reservations around 9, I may take a break and do my journal sleep patterns, and then I'm going to do right after that. I'm going to schedule to schedule the tire rotation. And I'm going to give it like 15 minutes. So Maddie's putting in 10 to 10:15. Okay. So it got a little smaller there. And I didn't realize, Maddie, that those were 30 minutes. So what you're looking at, everybody, is that those two at the top have a 30-minute time block, and the one she just put in has a 15-minute time block. That's why it's like a little bit thinner.
Yeah, and just Jamie's, just so you know, we have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I do 30 is because that gives me a little more cushion in my day. So I usually over schedule instead of under schedule, because then I have a little. So let's do one or two more, and then we'll stop and take questions and let Janice close up.
Okay. So the last one, let's see here. We'll be going down. So I got my tires. That's the first B. My second B is call their neurologist. Okay. Well, that might take a half hour, right? So I'm going to go ahead and schedule it in after I do my tire rotation, because I have that time open and I'm already on kind of near my phone and doing all of that. And I think I can take care of that. So we're going to
And
put
this
it
is big. This is big, where it becomes really super important to personalize it for you, because you may, sorry about that. My Alexa's talking to me. You may need a break between all of this, and that's okay. That's where you kind of start learning what you need. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think what's important here is this, and again, these sessions tend to go, well, there's more. Let's talk about it again, because we've talked a little bit about how to estimate the time. And we've talked about time blindness and all of that. If you're not sure how long things take, give yourself more time, okay, than you think. Start tracking. You can start tracking how long things take you. You can journal it. You can go in here and put a note into the entry. I can't do it myself, otherwise I'd show you. Maddie could. You could do it however you want to do it, but you could start tracking how long things actually take you, so that you can go back and look and have some reference point, okay, if you're not sure. Sometimes that's another thing, and we didn't get to talk a ton about AI, which I'm sad about, but one of the things that you can utilize, like say even Google AI or ChatGPT, is you can go in and ask it and say, how long should this take? And then you can give it parameters of different things to try and see what the most realistic, time frame could be. So that could be a tool that you could use. Maddie, do you want to show them real quick the AI options? Because what we're gonna do is kind of overview some of them, and then you can go in and try them out if you want.
Yeah, and these will be in your. Oh, you know what? I think I already closed it, Jamie. Let's see. I may have accidentally closed it. Yeah, because these are going to be. Oh, here it is. What I'm going to do is just show the slides to you, and then I'll include all the links in the email that I send Janice today, so that you can have access to those. And real quickly, somebody asked me about the Clarity, or I put in, not me personally, but asked about the Clarity app. So I'll include that in the resources too. A Clarity app is, so I use that a lot with our clients, because we have cognitive distortions that make us really overwhelmed. What that means is that I get really emotionally overwhelmed because I go to the grocery store and the person, I didn't get what I needed to get done, or I didn't get my items. So then I start doing this mind thinking around, oh my gosh, I failed. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to ever get better. There's this kind of emotional process that happens that our brain starts looping into negative places. And the Clarity app helps you get out of that and get your executive function to work again. So I'll include that. It's a really good tool. It's a free option to it, and it tracks your mood too. Okay, so just real quick, I just want to show you, and then Janice will be done. A couple of apps, and again, these will be in in the tools that I send, and I'll send links. ChatGPT, Goblin.tools. Both of these are AIs that break things down into overwhelming tasks into into detailed items. So if you need a checklist for calling the doctor, you can talk to either one of these, and they both have free options, and say, I need to call the doctor about this. Give me a script. And it'll give you a script to say, or you can actually put your brain dump in here too and say, here's my brain dump. Here's the, like, I need to make sure that we're prioritizing all my doctor's appointments, any work tasks. Can you prioritize this for me and at least give you a head start? Okay.
So Goblin Tools will specifically takes tasks and breaks them down into steps. So
Right.
it's basically creating a procedural checklist for you. And there's a feature on there that allows you to change the setting to ask it to give you more detail or less detail, depending on what you're wanting. Okay. So if, like Maddie said, you can do this somewhat in ChatGPT. Goblin Tools is specifically this magic to-do list that they have is specifically for just that. And so you'll go in and say, I need to, you know, whatever, write a report on ocean animals. You know, we use this with students, right? You know, give me, you know, and it'll just give you a list. And then you can change the settings if you want more detail or less detail. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And sorry,
Yeah.
Jamie, we only have like 2 minutes.
Yep.
So,
Let's go for it.
and then, like I said, this will be in there. There's a visual AI planner called Timo. I've used this myself just to make sure it works really well. And there's a free version, and it breaks down all your overwhelming tasks into actually visual tasks, which for some of you would be really helpful. Recallify is an actual memory app for people with TBI. It's pretty simple to use, and they do have a free alternative. And this one, I'm sorry, Recallify does cost. And then Otter.ai is a free alternative that does, it takes notes. It lets you put things in notebooks so that you can remember. And then there's CanPlan, which is, again, it's much like Goblin Tools, where it'll actually help you with sequencing. So we're talking about calling the neurologist, and sometimes people get stuck in all the pieces of that. I've got to remember the phone number. I've got to remember what to say. I've got to remember all these complex things. And the CanPlan actually does help you break it down, but in visual memory. So I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to go through those, but that will be, you can explore those, and all the ones I gave you that do have a free